Let's do my April wrap-up. So I read 8 books in April, which was an improvement over March. 5 of them were physical books. Well, 5 of them I read, 3 of them I listened to. Of the 5 I read, 4 were physical copies and 1 was an ebook for review. And 1 was an ebook ARC for review. Let's talk about the audiobooks first because I don't give those ratings. The very first one is Death by Dumpling by Vivian Chen. This book will be in a video that I'm doing for my next round of books for my TBR.co. So I'm not going to talk about it here, and I don't rate audiobooks, so I don't have a lot to say about it this time, but it is the first audio that I listened to this month. I know that I said I was going to have 2026 be the year of only reading mysteries. I kind of am stretching that definition a little bit. When there's something in another genre, but it has a mystery in it. And I also like paranormal books, so that was bound to happen at some point. So the next book I listened to was Big Witch Energy by Molly Harper. It is a paranormal romance. Our main character, Riley, receives a letter from an aunt that she did not even know existed. And this is coming quickly on the heels of the death of her mother. And she and her mother had sort of an odd, conflicted relationship. They didn't have the best relationship. She loved her mom, but she never really felt like she knew her mom or that her mom was that into being her mom. So when she receives this letter from her mother's sister to come and visit her on this small island in the middle of, I think, Lake Michigan? Not sure. One of the Great Lakes. She doesn't have anything better going on in her life. She's never really been able to hold on to a job for all that long, and she's in between jobs right now, and so she figures, why not? Unfortunately, when she arrives, she finds out that her aunt has just passed away, which really gave me the vibes of a book that I read in March, which was Murder Will Out, where this woman gets a letter from her godmother to come and visit her on, was that an island too? But that one was in Maine, and then she arrives and the godmother is dead. So here we go again. When she gets there, she is met by her aunt's attorney, who tells her that she has been gifted a job. She's there to take over her aunt's job, as her aunt has left it to her. And like any rational person, she's like, I don't think that's the way that jobs work, but it is to be the caretaker of this glamorous, luxurious mansion. She has to say yes, basically, because if she doesn't say yes to the job, she doesn't inherit any of the money either that her aunt has left her. So she is taken to the house and she's given a letter to read on the steps of the house, and she reads the letter, which contains the key to the house, but basically when she unlocks the door, a little needle pops out and pricks her finger and a drop of blood goes onto the house. It's like she's making a blood oath to the house. Now that sounds eerie and creepy. This is not. This is very cozy, and this is not a spicy book. There's no on stage spiciness. So she sort of can't leave anymore. She's given her oath to the house and she's there. And then I don't really think that this is a spoiler to just say that when she gets inside the house and she's learning more information, the house is full of ghosts. She's their caretaker as well. And the majority of them are very nice ghosts, and they are tied to objects that have been brought to the house, and the ghost kind of comes along with them. And she's been given various tasks that she has to perform challenges to carry on her family's work. This is what her family has been doing for generations. And this is the reason her mother left the island, because she didn't want to do this anymore. But what she didn't realize is that her ability to see ghosts would kind of follow with her. And she's always been trying to keep her daughter separate from that, which was one of the causes of them not having a very good relationship. As this is all going down, Riley is finding out that she's technically a witch, and she has two other women on the island who also are witches, but they had no idea until connected with Riley. Their coven comes together, they all get their powers, and also in the meantime, Riley is falling in love with the town's librarian, whose name is Emerson? I don't really remember, but the town librarian. Riley and her two witch friends have a task, they have a mystery to solve, and that is I would say, the main story of the book is more focused on what they have to do, the mystery they have to solve, than the romance aspect of it. Which led me into almost immediately, because I was listening to the book and the next book started in the series, and that was Witches Get Stuff Done, and that follows the second coven member, Caroline, when she is reunited with her high school boyfriend, who has returned to the island as an adult doctor with two teenage children, and it brings them back together. But again, there is a mystery to solve, which of course the coven does. Spoiler alert. They were cute, and I think I definitely realized that just like cozy mysteries, which I like listening to in the car, I also like listening to cozy romance in the car. So maybe there is a future for cozy romance in my life, especially if I'm listening to it in audio. Moving on to the books that I read. So the ebook I read, which is the first book with the lowest rating, was Let Nothing Astonish You by Lauren Opper, and I gave this a 2.5. Unfortunately, I didn't love it. It was a cozy mystery pretending to be a procedural, kind of, sort of. One of my problems is I couldn't tell you who the main character of this book is. There was nobody that I felt that we took the reins and was the main character of the book. Now, I'm sure the author would probably disagree and tell me that Carl, the former police captain, detective, whatever he is, I think his name was Carl, is the main character, but I would disagree because he doesn't do the main portion of the sleuthing. Everybody else in his little family unit does it. It's interesting to have things be from the perspective of the police officer in a cozy mystery, because that's a famous trope in cozies, is that you have an amateur, your cozy heroine usually, who sometimes is in a relationship with a cop or a former cop, but you don't really get things from the cop or the former cop's perspective, because then it's not a cozy. So in this one, we get an awful lot of his perspective at the same time that we get other people's perspective. And that's another thing that I don't think works well in a cozy. You know, that's a thriller trope, having these multiple perspectives and seeing things from different people's perspective of what's going on. Doing it in a cozy mystery just detracts from the coziness of it. And I just don't think that worked. Carl and his wife are retiring to Connecticut, to a small town where his stepdaughter, his wife's daughter, and her husband and their small daughter are living, because this is the town where the husband grew up, and he has returned to work for his father in his father's successful restaurant, and the daughter is working for the local innkeeper, basically. She is like the wedding coordinator. Now, there were a lot of things like that, those details that time was spent discussing the jobs, and it didn't really matter. Nothing was said at the end Yes, they went to the restaurant for meals, but it was just extraneous detail that we didn't really need. One thing that does lead having the son-in-law and his father run a restaurant is they're hired to cater a birthday dinner, and at the birthday dinner, the gentleman celebrating his birthday is murdered. There were a lot of contrived details that wouldn't happen realistically that had to happen in order for there to be a mystery and us to have no idea who did it. So this mystery dinner is taking place in a museum, and the museum coordinator, who happens to be the sister of the victim, decides to turn off the electricity. She doesn't just flip the light switches, she turns the electricity off, which disarms all the alarms and cameras. It's a museum, and you're the curator. Does this seem like a smart move to you? Probably not. And if your insurance company finds out, what is that going to do? But it had to be done, otherwise we would see people walking around the museum and we would know who the killer is. So it just was asking me to suspend disbelief, which is fine, that's what literature is all about, but it was too much. We had to go places where it was just not realistic for us to go. And ironically, the reason for the mystery, the rationale of the killer, all of that was feasible and made sense. But everything else that I've just discussed really detracted from it, and so 2.5 will not be continuing on if there is a next in the series, and couldn't really recommend. Next, finally, books in print. I gave a 4.0 to Gunpowder Green by Laura Childs. This was our Cozy Mystery Book Club book at Hollow & Quill in the month of April. And this is Laura Childs' Tea Shop series. I picked this book and I actually thought that it was a different book from a different author, and I had gotten them confused. And then when I picked it up and started reading it, I realized wrong series, but I had already put it out there to the universe that this was the book for book club. So went ahead and continued reading it. This series is set in Charleston, and Theo, owns a tea shop, and it's very popular, and it's right in Old Town, so she gets a lot of tourist trade. She has two people who work with her helping to run the tea shop, and they're quite the little team. They've got a groove going on. They are out catering an event associated to a boat race, and one of the attendees at this event is killed. And at first everybody thinks it's just he had the starter pistol, and they think it's just the gun misfiring and it killed him. But Theodosia thinks that there's more to it than that. So of course she has to investigate. The one thing I will say about this is I'm not quite sure, as happens often with a cozy mystery, if we are really played fair with as the readers, because we are going along and following along every step of her investigation with her, and then I think she figures it out, and we are not given the details. She sets a trap, we are not given the details, so we don't know who the culprit is, but she does, and yet she still finds herself in jeopardy. So I don't think any of that is spoilers. That's pretty common cozy tropes. But I just always, when we're going along and we're following all the clues and everything's great, and then all of a sudden you start having things withheld from you, it always feels like can't quite figure out how to give you all the information without giving it away. So when you think about somebody plotting something like Agatha Christie, you have every detail, you're given everything, you're played fair with, and it's up to you whether you figure it out or not. And it seems like with modern cozies, The one thing that the writer doesn't want to do is make sure you figure it out. They want to hold the information from you until the last possible minute. Let your readers have an idea. Let them have the same information. Play fair with them. And if they get there, they get there. And if they don't, they don't. So that's probably what bumped it down to a 4 for me. Next up with a 4.2 was Kate Quinn's The Briar Club. And I spoke about this in my historical mysteries vlog that I just did, so I won't go into too much detail about it. Just to say it is historical, it's told from multiple perspectives. I did have some gripes with it. It is very lit-ficky. I don't think that this was a mystery in any way, shape, or form, but I go there in the vlog, so if you're interested, look for that video. Next was another Hollow and Quill book club book. This was our thriller book club book. It is Riley Sager with a Vengeance. Now, I was late to the Riley Sager game, so to speak. I just recently read The Only One Left back in November of last year. Really liked that one. Thought, oh, if all thrillers were like this, I would probably read more of them. I think it's because it's not domestic thriller, which I think is the thing that I don't like. This is also not a domestic thriller. This is historical. It is set on a train, and it has a lot of people comparing it to a combination of And Then There Were None and Murder on the Orient Express. I do like the way that Sager writes characters. I do think he's good from a plotting perspective. And if you like a twist, there are so many twists in this one that I think that detracted from it for people because there were too many twists. And when I think about what I said about the unrealistic things in Let Nothing Astonish You, were these unrealistic things? Kind of, sort of, but did I care? No. I was just along for the ride, and it was a good ride, and I liked it. It does have that Riley Sager signature, is this paranormal thing that he does, I guess, maybe in every book. But yeah, I like that. It's charming. I don't know, but I like it. So it was good for me. And the final book I read and gave a 4.62 was Colin Dexter's Last Bus to Woodstock, which is the first in the Inspector Morse mysteries. I read this for a Top Shelf Challenge, and I thoroughly discuss it there, so I won't go into it, but this was the best book that I read in April, and I was happy that I enjoyed it, and I'm going to continue on with the series. So that is it. That is everything I read in April. It was a good month. I should probably start thinking about what my average ratings are, but since I don't rate so many books, should I do my average rating? I don't know. Tell me what you think. And thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.